as most of you know, I am starting my last semester in seminary, and as a result, I'm beginning the commissioning process to become fully ordained. Now, for those who don't and may not know what that means, the commissioning process is a 3-year process, sort of like an internship or a trial run before someone is ordained. Now, in that process, I have to submit a video of one of my sermons, because they want to see how I preach and how the audience reacts, how the congregation reacts. So if you find something a little funny, maybe play it up a little bit, and have a little bit of reaction, just interact more so it makes me look better. Okay, just if you could do me that favor, I know I would very much appreciate it. Oliver Wendell Holmes. Many good sermons start out by using the name Oliver Wendell Holmes. He was a 19th century author, lecturer, poet, and physicist. Not two things you normally see side by side, poet and physicist. But he is purported to have said something to the effect of, "Some people are so heavenly minded that they are no earthly good." Now, I don't know the circumstances within which Mr. Holmes made this statement, but the church has found ways to use it, mainly against each other. Now, I believe the reason it remains something, for a century, it's remained in our Christian vernacular, I believe the reason that is because it holds true for us in some respect or another, even today. I mean, how many before today have heard the expression, "Some people are so heavenly minded that they are no earthly good"? Well, there's a smattering. I would call that a smattering. The idea with this is that the Christian can become so immersed in the things associated with their faith and, more importantly, their final destination, that they fail to realize that Christians are also called to work for and to promote good and holiness within their current circumstances as well. And I'm not sure if many of you have heard, well, that's not true. I'm sure most of you have heard of this thing called the rapture. This is an often disputed and relatively new theology about what happens towards the end times. And it says that faithful Christians will be pulled into heaven while the rest of humanity stays behind to deal with the 7-year tribulation. Whatever is involved in that. I never really got into the Left Behind books, so I'm a little behind on my full understanding of rapture theology. Well, author Barbara Rossing writes in her book, The Rapture Exposed, about how this could lead to the Christian not caring about certain other things, instead paying attention to what they believe are more important things. This could be, for example, environmental concerns. If we're going to get to a new heaven and a new earth, why not throw caution and all the nasty fumes we can to the wind? Sort of, we're going to get a new one. Why do we have to work to protect this one or work to keep this one nice to the extent that we can? She also posits that rapture theology can lead one to become concerned merely about those closest to them and lose that distinctly Christian concern for the mission field and others in need. If at any time Jesus is going to call up his saints, I want to ensure that me and mine are going to be on that particular bus. Others can fend for themselves. Now, we can argue the extent to which Rossing is correct in all of this, but it does demonstrate how one can be so heavenly minded as to be of no earthly good. Now, there is earthly good to be done. That is for sure. Jesus tells us as much in Matthew 28 when he calls us to go into all the world and make disciples. There is good for the Christian to do while they are here. There is earthly good to be done by followers of the way. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say followers of the way, I might suggest coming to our Wednesday night Bible study and studying the book of Acts with us. Because that is what Christians were originally called, followers of the way. But I digress. If you don't know what it means, come to Bible study. If we understand that there can be people who are too heavenly minded, how should we look at the way Jesus says certain things in John's gospel? Like this: if you belong to the world will love you as its own. However, I have chosen you out of the world, and you don't belong to the world. That's troubling in light of what we've been talking about. And it's what we call cognitive dissonance. It creates a sort of problem in our heads, wherein two ideas are sort of fighting their differences out within your understanding. Now, I would compare it to someone who's just heard the little ditty, "Shave and a haircut." Right? Shave and a haircut. Hey, oh, come on, I had a whole thing. I was going to wait. I was going to make you wait with bated breath until I did the 2 bits. But that's the thing. If you hear that, you automatically have to go 2 bits. And if you don't, you'll go mad until you hear it. You've got to finish that thing, or else there's this struggle happening in your head. I've got to hear it. I've got to finish it. And that's sort of what cognitive dissonance is. And it's what we talk about when we think about or someone being too heavenly minded, especially when we have Jesus saying that we don't really belong to the world. If we don't really belong to the world, can we really be too heavenly minded? Now, the Holmes quote, granted, is not from Scripture. So we can only trust it to some small extent. Jesus tells us we don't belong to this world, but he also says, go out and make disciples. Paul, in Acts 17, evangelizes the Greeks using his knowledge of their culture. So Paul has gone out and discovered more about the people to whom he should be ministering. What is it? What are we supposed to be doing? How do we handle this in our minds? Do we separate ourselves from the world? Do we immerse ourselves in the world